Good afternoon. We're the Cola Guys. I'm David.
And I'm George.
And we are here at Dyer Mercedes today. This is Hank Dyer and Neil Bray. They are two of the top leaders here at the dealership. We are excited because you guys have kind of jumped on board with us. And we just are here today to learn more about you guys and find out about the family and the dealership and just, your impact here on the Columbia community. So welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for being with us.
Appreciate you guys being here. We're glad to host the Cola Guys, David, George, and all of you guys back there. We appreciate you guys attending. We're glad to start this partnership and excited about the opportunity.
The Cola Guys isn't your average real estate podcast.
Our mission is to give buyers and sellers the power of knowledge through their real estate transactions.
We do this by helping first-time homebuyers realize that there are more expenses that come with owning a home than just the loan.
We also understand there are many times move-up buyers and sellers have forgotten the process because it's been so long since their last real estate transaction.
We make the downsizing easy.
Once you get into the habit of working with us, the process becomes so smooth you won't mind to move.
We are also excited to share with you what all the Midlands has to offer. This episode is brought to you by Dyer Mercedes-Benz, the first Mercedes-Benz in South Carolina.
Awesome. Not to leave you out at first, Neil, but we're going to start off with a few family questions. So, of course, that means, unless you want to join the family. Okay. So just kind of give us a history of the family's background and how this dealership came about, how Dick Dyer started in the car industry and where this all originated from.
Yeah, that's a good question. It goes back pretty far, George, to answer your question. We're a third-generation dealership. Dick Dyer moved to Columbia in 1969. Prior to that, he had been in the automobile industry back in the 50s at Courtesy Ford in Charlotte, North Carolina. Our family was from the coal mines of West Virginia, for real, believe it or not. Baptist preachers and coal miners ended up car salesmen, if they only knew. But nevertheless, Dick Dyer moved to Columbia in 1968, 69. He had the opportunity, was approached by Mercedes-Benz because he worked with Bill Beck in Charlotte, North Carolina, who had a Mercedes-Benz franchise, and about opening one in South Carolina. And they determined that Columbia was in the middle of the state. That's where they wanted to put it. Dick had some ties down here in Columbia. He wanted to start there. But Mercedes-Benz, Toyota were the initial brands, and then Volvo came on later as a franchise. Now, as far as starting it out, it started very bare bones minimum in July 1969 on Main Street. I was born in 87, so I can't speak to the day-to-day, but I can tell you through the heritage and things I've learned from my uncles and granddad and stuff what it was. But started there, and we've been in the Columbia area for 52 years now. So that's a little bit of overview of the history. I can dive into a little bit more, but I could be here all day talking about that. So I'm glad to have it. Yeah.
Awesome. So talk to us a little bit about the attraction maybe in the beginning to the Mercedes brand. Like, why Mercedes? You mentioned that y'all were involved with Ford up in Charlotte before. Why Mercedes?
Well, Mercedes-Benz, even then, and especially now, even more now, is a luxury brand. They built the first vehicle, right? With Mercedes-Benz starting in Germany, it was a very well-defined vehicle. It was a flagship vehicle. Even in the 50s, 60s, it was something different. It kind of went against the grain of Ford, Chevrolet, Dodge, what have you. At the time, it looked great, but it was not a very attainable brand at first. So it was always the expensive car, the non-practical family car, the convertible, that kind of thing. So when Dick got approached about it, he was excited because it was something different that Columbia didn't have. Columbia had other brands that had been around a long time, your Ford, Chevrolet, et cetera, et cetera. And, he was adamant in believing in Mercedes beginning in the United States because at that time they had a very small footprint. He partnered with Toyota after that, which was also a very, very, very small brand at that point. And just kind of went from there. Volvo was a great addition as well because Volvo builds a very safe vehicle. They were the first company to come out with a 3-point safety belt. Every seat belt that you use every day comes from the technology that Volvo provides. And then throughout the decades, Mercedes is one of those brands that really developed the product. And more importantly, they attracted a bigger audience. And now it's a very sought after brand. It's an iconic star, a logo, and people know what it is. So that was, I think, the main attraction right there.
And then for you, Neil, what was your attraction to not Mercedes as a whole, but Dick Dyer Mercedes? What attracted you to the brand here?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So I've been with these guys going on 12 years. I actually started out as a car salesperson. I've done everything from internet sales to washing cars to finance, and now I'm one of the sales managers. And the thing that I initially liked about this dealership when I had the opportunity to come aboard with the Dyers was that it was a true family-owned and run operation. You have a lot of places that are a family-owned operation, but they're not actually run by the family members. You would be hard-pressed to find someone with the same last name in the state. We are fortunate that we're on the third generation for dealer principal and owner. Our owner, Hunt Dyer, he is a third generation member of the family. It's passed down all the way through. The other thing that I really liked about this company was that it had a history of integrity. It's kind of the elephant in the room, but car dealers don't always have the best reputation amongst consumers. And a lot of that's been earned, unfortunately, but coming in here was a breath of fresh air. Doing the right thing has always been the priority with this family and taking care of our clients, and it really shines through. The story I always tell is Richard Dyer was the general manager at the time, and he hired me. And he looked at me in the eyes when he hired me, and he said, "Son, no matter what happens, if you bump into your customer at the grocery store on Sunday, you'll never have to go and run and hide down the other aisle." And it sounds silly, but I found that to be true. I'm proud to work for this family, and the way they take care of their community, the customers, and the employees is just, there's no one else like it in town.
That's awesome. And so, Hank, that leads into a segue with you. Is it takes more than the family to run a dealership this size and one that's so service oriented. So talk a little bit about your leadership philosophy and the vision you have for the dealership for growing the business beyond the family and involving people like Neil.
Well, that's a great question. The family always believed in developing talent. Going back decades, there's folks like Neil, and then there's a lot of people that have built this dealership. It says Dick Dyer and Associates, but I sometimes wish it said Mercedes-Benz of Columbia and all the people here, right? I think it's important to have a team environment. We promote within, but in terms of the long-term success of the store, it's about the people. The people are what make it happen. Dick used to say it's the automobile business or the car sales, for example, is a personal business. It's not, yes, you're receiving a vehicle at the end of the day, but it's also a opportunity to develop a relationship. And that's what he did really well. It's just like meeting with you guys, is cultivating relationships, building in the community. But more importantly, selling something is just as important as taking care of your customers. And that was big for him and our leadership. And then Richard Dyer, who Neil and I worked for many years, was paramount, which is take care of your customers and they will continue to do business with you. And there was things that we did that were off the wall that most dealerships wouldn't, but we were very conservatively ran financially, and it allowed us to develop our people. We've been here on Two Notch for over 30 years. Some lady came by my office yesterday and asked when we were moving. I said, I don't know, probably not for a long time. And the reason for that is Hunt, my cousin who owns the store, wants to develop his people and invest in that and the product and the technology, because the building is great. We've been here a long time, but at the same time, our vision is to keep growing this, possibly down the road add more facilities and invest in our people. But we have a good core talent of people, but this company wouldn't run without other people. It's not all just Dyers. So, people like Neil, Scott Mims, I can name 70, I think we have 82 employees right now. If you count over the decades, I'm sure it's in the 1,000 range, how many people work there. But it's not just the people that work here, it's their families. It's their wives, it's their sons, it's whoever it is. You're talking about 80 people, but I tell Hunt all the time, you're talking about almost 400, the amount of people it touches. So got to keep doing that. And I think even now, more importantly, is to develop your people and hire good people. So, and that's sometimes hard to do.
Yeah.
So you've talked about investing in your employees, which is very important both in real estate and in the car business. But 2020, COVID-19 hits, where a lot of businesses are starting to decline. They aren't seeing their employees come back to work. If both of y'all could touch on what Dick Dyer Mercedes has done to really maintain the retention of the employees compared to other businesses.
Yeah, I'll jump in to start on that one. So obviously, the world has changed a lot in the last 2 years, and I don't think anybody with a clear conscience could say they saw any of it coming. So it took us all sort of by left field. A couple things that the dealership did. The first and most important thing, and Hunt's biggest concern, was the safety of our employees. And we went to great measures, and not just our employees, but our clients as well. We went to great measures to make sure we had limited exposure as much as possible. We split shifts for a few months to try to make sure a portion of our team stayed healthy. We went through extra sanitary processes here at the dealership. We also switched to offering a lot of home options as far as delivering. We have it set up, even still currently, where you can purchase a car start to finish without ever touching the dealership, which a lot of folks have liked. And that's probably one of the good ways that the pandemic has changed business in general. The other nice thing, in addition to taking care of our clients, we also really did an excellent job taking care of our employees. Hunt decided before any federal assistance was announced that he was going to continue to pay everyone an average of what their commissions and salaries were throughout the course of the pandemic, regardless of whether there was going to be any federal help or not. And he honored that commitment. And, there were a couple months where we didn't turn a profit, and he still went out of his way to take care of the people that work here. So it meant a lot to me, and it meant a lot to our employees as it trickled down as well.
Well, that's an amazing story, because I know a lot of businesses took the opposite approach and just told everybody to go home and we'll call you if we need you kind of an attitude. And so, kudos to having that, family values, I guess, is what it goes back to, is, everybody is a family, and you just take care of them, period. So, looking beyond just, the families in the dealership here, I know y'all are involved with a lot of philanthropic work outside, here in Columbia as well as other places in the state. Would you like to share a little bit about that, how you give back?
Yes, sir. I would think I could list them all, but mainly what our focus was, and I think the pandemic changed a lot of it. Prior to 2020, we were doing a lot of sponsorships with the Columbia Museum of Art. We did a lot of things that were off the wall, local events that we were asked to do. When the pandemic hit, a lot of people were at home, so a lot of events stopped. As we all know, you couldn't attend a concert, you couldn't do these events. So what that made us think about was, when these events come back, people are going to be excited about going to them. And it could be anything from a charitable organization or a local business. And we started investing that money locally in these sponsorships, but I call them community partners, because we would rather invest in our community than send the money in outside marketing. Now, we do outside marketing, but for the most part, a lot of our budget goes to these events. And a lot of them are our customers. But for the most part, I could list them off. We work with the University of South Carolina. We've been partnered with them for a very, very long time. We're partnered with South Carolina State and their athletic department. We're also partnered with Brooklyn Baptist Church, which is one of the largest churches in the state. We're excited to be on board with them. We do a lot with the Pride Fest. We do a lot with all kind of events that are tailored to our customers. We actually did one with BAPS, which is a Indian culture charity, and we really are focused on it. Like example, for this month, we have 4 events we have to attend to accommodate, and that takes a lot of logistical effort. But more importantly, people know our name, they know the brand, and we like putting our money where our mouth is, and that's with the people. And we get asked, it's probably every other week that we get asked from a customer who's involved in something to help them sponsor. And most of the time we say yes. Not all the time, but most of the time.
So if you hear that, that's your guy to ask.
Yeah. So that's great. I mean, I know the Columbia area appreciates all you do for them, and we do see your name all over the place, and so thank you for that. But I guess one final question maybe we have for you is, what's the vision? Where do you talked a little bit about, your cousin leading, maybe growing around through here, but, what is the vision for Dick Dyer and Associates on down the road?
The vision is to keep the formula going. It's amazing what we have here. You wake up every day, you're excited. It's a different day. We spend a lot of time here. We spend more time with each other than we do with our families, and we rub elbows at times, but we get along for the most part. And at the end of the day, I think our vision is to continue that success, but it is just like we talked about, investing in your people, staying up trends with the automotive industry. There's so many different things going on right now. It's probably the most volatile time in the 15 years I've done this, and Neil has done this, ever. We can't get cars. The banks are raising interest rates. It can go on and on and on, but there's a lot of factors at play right now. And for the first time in my career, it's exciting because you're learning something new every day, because every day comes with its challenges. But the vision is to keep that going, to keep investing in the brand, but also investing in our people, keeping that up, keeping up with these sponsorships. We don't have any plans to go anywhere. We don't have any plans to sell the dealership. And for the life of me, I don't think that'll happen. I pray that it doesn't, and I don't think we will. Because we got people like Neil, we got people like Scott, we got people like Tim Murphy. I mean, I can name all the guys that help, and gals. Our top salespeople are 2 females. And, 10 years ago, that was almost unthought of. So it's amazing to see the culture. And I think right now we have the best team that we've had in a long time that's very cohesive and very, you foster teamwork, and good things will come from it. The good days, the bad days, they will always level out when you got consistent people. And that's the thing about this dealership. We get that a lot. Is I like doing business with you guys because I know who you are. You walk in, they know who Irvin is, or they know who Barbara is, or whoever it might be. They know who James is in the parts department, or John, or even Thad. Thad Streeter has been with this company for over 30 years. And, those are the people they like doing business with, familiar faces, versus going to some other dealerships. You pull into the service lane or walk in the showroom and you get whoever just started 5 days ago, right? Like that doesn't happen here much. So I think that's the vision, is keeping that small, family-friendly atmosphere, but more importantly, familiar. That's what it is.
Yes, sir. Well, Hank and Neil, we really can't thank y'all enough for hosting us here and also joining the podcast. But we're excited. Next week, we're going to be doing a podcast with Jill Lara and Irvin Davis from the Mercedes-Benz dealership here in